I'm going to try to talk about intruders. Philosophy intruders, techniques of intruders, style. I know I cannot do it all, but I'll do some of it. We'll have some fun with it. So this is tied on a tube, Pro Sport Fisher Classic tube, but the key thing about intruder is that these, I would say a typical intruder winds up being about that long. And how long is that? And I'd say somewhere between 3 and 4 inches long. 4 inches would be a fairly big one, although some people make them 5. 2 inches would be kind of a little baby intruder, and I'm not really sure if it would qualify. 3 inches would be right in the ballpark. And so if you look at a traditional steelhead fly, would be about this size. Now your intruder is going to go from up here probably clear back to here. So if you see, intruder would go from here to here. That gives you an idea. It's better than twice the size of a traditional steelhead fly. Now, why would you ever want to do that? Well, one reason you might want to do that would be if you are. So one of the things that's going to happen here is I'm going to lose my train of thought and have to get it back. One of the attributes of an intruder, and please keep in mind, my intruder knowledge is coming from, I'm not the guy that invented these things or developed them. I'm following on the behind the boot steps of people like Jerry French and Ed Ward, some of the Scott Howell, other people who I have read about, watched on YouTube, guys that are highly respected, super innovative. But I'm doing a video here, and I'm having fun with it. And that's the point, is to share what I've learned, share what I believe, and then you are going to go along and you're going to develop your own style, and your intruders are going to look a little bit different than mine, and mine look a little bit different than Jerry French's. And that's all good, and that's how our sport evolves, our craft. What I'm trying to do here in the rear is, so an intruder is, and I was rambling, that's normal, pretty good size, and intended to evoke a violent reaction from the steelhead. This thing has intruded into my space and I'm gonna crush it. And that is what we hope for. So an intruder, to get a big, large size without having a ton of weight, you typically have a butt station and a shoulder station, or a butt and a thorax, or a rear and a front. And it's usually skinnier in the middle. And in my mind, it's really cool if you can see that space there. If your forward materials are so thick that they cover it, I'm not sure that it's okay. So this is intended to be my butt station, and I use some Seal X dubbing, trying to create a little bit of bulk there. Now, I haven't really decided on my color theme for this fly yet, but I think I'm going to go with black, mostly black, maybe a little bit of blue. I've got some ostrich here, and now, oh my gosh, ostrich is something that you will have so much fun with, because some people like really skinny ostrich, and some people like really thick, fluffy ostrich. As far as I'm concerned, they're both cool. They both work. So a big part of that is your own personal style. Now, the reason for putting that ball of dubbing on there is to create some loft. If I didn't put that there, now I could have used chenille also. If I'd used, but if I just tied the ostrich on there, it wouldn't have this nice flare to it. So you wouldn't have that flare. And what's the deal about that flare? Well, that flare, when this fly is under tension, it's those fly tires love to do that. It will give your fly a lot of action. And if they were just going straight back, you'd have some action, but not quite as much. Not quite as much. So I wound over those hackles so I have a nice smooth base. So what I like to do here, I could do a couple things. I could do all kinds of things. I could add, if I was lucky and had some jungle cock, I could put a couple of jungle cock eyes in there. I could put in some Lady Amherst. Let's put in some Lady Amherst. Why? Well, it'll provide a little bit of contrast. And contrast it's one of those cool things we can do to spice up our flies. So let's make this just make these just a little bit longer than our ostrich. Don't have to, but if we make them a little bit longer, they'll be more noticeable. We don't need much here. Now, if I was really good, which I'm not, I would have been able to spin a composite loop and put some ostrich in it and a little bit of dubbing and my Lady Amherst and wind it all on at one time. But you know what? Not good enough. I've done it. It's very difficult for me to do it. Winds up taking longer, and my results are far less consistent than when I just wrap around. So that's what I'm doing. So got some black ostrich, some Lady Amherst. Let's call it good at that. Now I want to put on a slender body, and I've got some sort of material over here. I'm going to try a flow blue. I'm going to try a kind of a different. It's a flat braid. There's all kinds of flat braids. This is Lagerton. Hairline makes some great stuff. Mini flat braid. My idea here, and since I'm not going to go back and unwind this. Ooh, do I want any flash back here? Sure. Let's add a little bit of flash. Why not? Go some midge flash braid. Now, you certainly wouldn't have to do this, but this is an example of how a person can have fun with these flies. And these fish are interesting things. They're interesting creatures, and I think they can become intrigued. intrigued by flies that have quite a bit of contrast. I'm just trying to put a few by the way, the effect you get with this midge flash, it's like a skinny crystal flash. It's quite different than you'd get with crystal flash. And I use both. Here we go, got a little bit of flash in there. We got some black ostrich, we got a butt section. Now, where'd my braid go? Did I lose my braid? It's here somewhere. Well, I'll find it when I clean up. Oh, why not? I'll choose a completely different color. This is kind of a red and pearl flat braid. I'm gonna put that all the way forward. Oh yeah, I was gonna put some Loctite on here. That's what I was gonna do. This will bomb-proof. Now I want to cover up that back end. There we go. Now I've committed a little bit of a problem here, but it's not going to affect the fish, but it's going to be a bit thicker back here than it is going forward. So let's, I might be able to fix that by going back here and then going forward again. There we go. A few turns. Okay, a little bit more Loctite. So we've got a butt station. It's got some complexity in it, a little bit of flare, some nice motion. Now let's do a shoulder station. I've got red back here, and I'm going to use a piece of. Ooh, I know what I am going to put. I'm going to put some weight on this, but I'm going to wait till the last minute. I'm going to use some, again, emphasis of this is just to ramble. So what I want to make the shoulder station a little bit denser than the butt station. And I don't want this whole thing to be so dense that when it's in the water, it's just one big fat wad, okay? I want to be able to see that open space in between. So let's, now this is gonna create a bump in front, gonna create some loft. And it's also gonna add a little bit of fuzziness. But I've got to start looking ahead now to make sure I have room to add everything to this fly that I want to add, and still add my dumbbell eyes at the end. So I could have used I could have put a ball of dubbing on here. I could have used some Estaz, you know. If I'd used some blue Estaz, wound it around the hook, that would create some loft. Could have used a ball of chenille. Put ostrich on now, and I've got my black ostrich. I've got a couple pieces here, and these are both pretty similar. Oh, this one's a little bit fuzzier. Let me see if I can. This one's a little bit fuzzier. Is it going to be long enough? And let's see. I'm not sure. Yeah, I like that. So if I can hang on to them. So I don't want to put on so much ostrich. You know, so what? There is no such thing as an industry standard that determines whether the fly you tie is or is not an intruder. There's some things I look for. I look for a fly where you can actually differentiate the shoulder and the butt section. But you have plenty of flies on the market that when they're wet, they just look like one big old wad of stuff. And so I'm not the judge and jury. To some people, any big old imposing, now I'm running short on these slightly thicker ostrich fibers, but I think I'm going to make it. Anyway, some people, anything that's big and imposing qualify as an intruder, and that's fine. Just doesn't quite for me. I gravitate to the flies where I can differentiate that front and rear. Okay, so that's got some ostrich on there. So what now? So let me wind this back just a little bit, the thread. So that helps it flare a little bit. To me, in my mind, a reverse marabou fly doesn't really qualify as an intruder. It's big, it's puffy. It just doesn't meet the criteria. But they're great flies. They're absolutely great flies. So you see, we're getting into some significant time investment here. Do I want to put more Lady Amherst in there? Let's see what colors I might have. You know, would black and white be good there? I think black and white might be. I think that would be a nice touch. Now, you should have the idea by now that you have tremendous freedom in how you build your flies. I like this Lady Amherst because it will insert some color contrast, not only because this is white next to the black, but it's also barred. Has some white and some black, and I think that broken color. Some of my friends use the term crittery. They came up with it, not me, as in being like a properties, qualities like a critter, or they call these bugs. Really cool terminology. I'm having a hard time separating out my Amherst. That's why I'm pausing. I agree. I think these contrasty color combinations and contrasty materials, they add to the motion of the fly. And the motion and the appearance of motion. You have actual motion and you have appearance of motion. And those both can serve to convince the steelhead that this is something out there that it merits investigation by way of chomping it. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now I could have added a guinea, and I'm just being a little funny about this. I'm moving all around. You don't have to be this insistent. I'm just looking for the places that don't have quite as much coverage. Now the other problem is, for every turn you take, I'm using a 6/0 thread. I should probably be using a 10 or a 12, because every layer there. Now let's look at how that's gonna go, okay? Let's look at that in comparison to this other fly right now. Big difference. Fish is gonna respond very differently. Now I like the fact that this is open. When it's above the fish in the water, they're going to be able to see right through this, but you're going to have a lot of motion here. Now, I'm getting towards the front, and I want to think about finishing this fly off. Boy, I might want to, ooh, how about some flash on the front? How about, oh, this stuff is such a mess to work with. Ah! Half my ice wing came out. I got a big loose hank here that is going to be impossible to control. So I love this stuff for flash, but it is just a pain to work with. That might not be true for everybody, but it sure is for me. So I'm going to get some nice long strands on there. Just one turn. I'm gonna come over here and do another turn, then another turn. Then I'm gonna kind of trim that off, spread it out a little bit. So just little hints and sparkles in there. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see it. Hints, and this is not an overly flat. The fish are gonna see this like crazy, and that's just a little bit of. Now, if I were to put in some strands of lateral scale, that would be mega flash. I don't want to do that. Now it's going to be really murky water. I might want to do it, but on this fly I don't. Now I've got. I'm going to be adding a dumbbell eye to this fly. But I want to do it in a manner that is neat. I want it to look neat and professional, which means I can't be having this this big wad of thread up there. So what am I going to do? I'm gonna. A guinea feather has some motion of its. I could use a natural. This is kind of a baby blue. I like that really well. I'm going to tie it in by the tip. So this guinea will it'll cover up a little bit of the Lady Amherst, but it will also, it'll cover it up with something that has its own color and motion. And now, so I'm thinking about something else. I think I want a black thread. Don't ask me why. Do I want a black thread to tie my dumbbell? I don't know. Let's say I do. You know, these are things you can mess with, you can have fun with. So this is going to be a big fly. How would you fish this big fly? You would fish it. There's an 8/0 thread. That's but I got it. It's not on the. It's not threaded. How would you fish this fly? You're going to fish this fly on the swing. you're going to cast quartering downstream. You may cast straight across. Let it sink a little bit more. And let it go under tension. Now we're going to have some weight on this at the end. You may take a step down right after you cast, or you may take a step down when your fly first starts to swing. And the reason for taking a step down would be to release tension from your line and allow your fly to sink a little bit quicker. A little bit quicker. You may take one step down, may take two steps down, may take three. Now, the good part of taking a step down, the good side is, I'm going to fold this. The good side is your fly will sink a little bit deeper. The downside is you could very easily get grabbed while you are stepping down, and there is no tension on your fly, and you have no clue that the steelhead has grabbed you. I've had that happen. And sometimes the only reason you know is you see a great big old flash down there under the water. That fish has already taken your fly and it's head shaking, trying to spit it out. So that's problematic. You've got to make your own decision on that one. If you don't step down, you may wind up having, if the fish is quite close to where you cast, fly might sail right over its head. If you do step down, you might miss the fish. There's no universal answer. Got to just go fishing. Okay. Here we go. Time to put on my barbell eyes. Dumbbell eyes, barbell eyes. These are kind of like hourglass eyes. I'm gonna whip finish first. Of course, I'm making a mess here. I trapped some of these guinea feathers. Didn't want to do that. This one is sticking out anyway. I'm gonna pull him off. Cut him off. So here comes now. This fly is essentially tied in the round. But once I put these eyes on, it is not going to fish in the round. It is going to swim with the eyes down. So I make sure I want to be happy with where I place these eyes. It's kind of tricky. It's tricky to add these eyes on at the last minute, but it can be done. The alternative is you put them on earlier and then finish your fly at the exact place. That can be done too. I have come to, sometimes I'll put the eyes on right under here, so they're kind of shrouded. You can pick your poison. So you can see these thread wraps here. That's okay. I'm not going to worry about covering them up with ice dub, although I could. Now I'm not, I'm not pulling down super hard on this, because if I did, I might bend my mandrel just right out of the vise. Don't want to do that. Maybe I will add. Said I wouldn't. Let's see if I'm able. Let's see if it looks any better. if I add just a little bit of eye stub there. Now I want it to be nice and skinny. This is purely cosmetic. I'm just trying to make this finished head look nice. Okay, now I don't think I'm gonna, I'm not gonna move the eye stub forward of the eyes. I'm gonna call it quits right here. I think I've covered up enough of the nonsense that I wanted to. I'll tie one more whip finish. Can barely see here. Okay, a little bit of cement here. A little bit of cement here. Now if I put super glue on here, I should do it, Loctite. That should be done with a needle. You should have a little puddle, because if you use a brush here, you're going to get your Loctite all over those hourglass eyes, and it just is not going to look as good. So this is, I'm quite pleased with this. What's in the water, you're going to get quite a bit of motion. You've got a little bit of flash up here. You've got some contrast. I consider these colors pleasingly contrasting. You're going to be able to translucence. You're going to see through it, but it's definitely there. It's got bulk and translucence. So let me take this off here. I'm gonna go off camera. I'm going to shorten my tube, and then I'm just gonna, this is a dangerous place to be. Okay, slightest little flare. Here we have it, folks. Here's the rear view. Here's the front view. Okay, that's it. I have no idea what I said. I hope some of it was useful. I'm sure we'll tie some other flies. This intruder doesn't have a name. It's just a dark cast, fairly subtle. Hope you enjoy it. I guarantee this fly catch fish.